"Tea," said Captain Marcus Wren, smiling politely as he offered the steaming cup to the towering reptilian guard. "It's an acquired taste. But you lot never struck me as a culture built on flavor." The guard blinked slowly, unimpressed, his yellow eyes narrowing. He didn't take the cup. Wren shrugged and set it down on the flat edge of his metal cell bench. The cup, fashioned from scrap conduit and a repurposed filtration tube, still hissed faintly from the heat. It smelled vaguely of something halfway between peppermint and gun lubricant. Human ingenuity never lacked for creativity, especially under duress. Across the narrow corridor of the Zarnath Ultima's detainment wing, 5 more human men sat in various poses of boredom. One was asleep, another was using a frayed shoelace and a magnetic fork to build what looked suspiciously like a small trebuchet. The third, clearly a mechanic, had already removed the paneling near the oxygen port and was fiddling with wires like he was fixing a vending machine back on Earth. Wren remained relaxed, calm. His posture screamed compliance. His eyes did not. Admiral Zethak, Supreme Executor of the 3rd Expansion Fleet, stood behind a force shield that buzzed faintly with electric restraint. He was flanked by 3 elite officers of the Imperial Sovereignty caste, all armored in polished crimson and wearing expressions carved from stone. "These are your soldiers," Zethak finally said, his voice thick with disbelief. "This is Earth's retaliation team." "I wouldn't go that far," Wren replied with a mild chuckle. "We're more like maintenance, cleanup crew, or bait, depending on how this ends." The Admiral's neck frills flared ever so slightly. A tick of irritation, perhaps, or confusion. "You are not soldiers." "Depends on the day," said Wren. "Tuesdays, I'm a teacher. Thursdays, I build bombs. Weekends, I enjoy gardening." One of the Sovereignty guards raised a pulse baton, threateningly. "Don't," Wren said softly. "You'll trigger phase 2, and then you'll have to mop bits of me off the ceiling." A moment of hesitation passed. The baton was lowered. Zethak's eyes narrowed further. "We captured your group by accident. A sweep of a frontier mining outpost. We assumed you'd be of no consequence." Wren nodded sympathetically. "Most people do. That's how we've stayed alive so long." In the shadows behind the Admiral, an insectoid aide whispered something into a translator device. Zethak waved him off. "No consequence," the Admiral repeated. "No military insignia, no advanced tech, no resistance. We expected fear, panic. Yet your men laughed as we shackled them." "Ever been to a Monday staff meeting on Earth?" Wren asked dryly. "This is nothing." The aide buzzed again. The Admiral finally acknowledged him. "They recommend psychological dissection," the aide translated, "to understand your species' resilience." Wren's smile didn't fade. If anything, it softened. But the edge in his voice cut sharper than any vibroblade. "If you dissect even one of us, Admiral, you won't understand our resilience. You'll just experience our retaliation." Zethak stepped closer to the force shield, his scales catching the pale light like polished stone. "And what will retaliation look like from a species with no fleet? No world-spanning empire? You are primitives, clever, yes, but limited. A curiosity, not a threat." Wren stood finally, with a subtle grace that caught the alien's eye. He approached the shield, stopping inches from it. "We are the species that learned to dominate a planet full of apex predators. We turned fire into civilization. We went from bone clubs to orbital weaponry in less time than your species took to figure out indoor plumbing." He leaned closer, voice calm and deliberate. "And most importantly, Admiral, we learned how to smile while we planned to end you." The shield sparked faintly, as if reacting to the intensity behind his gaze. The Admiral turned abruptly and walked away. Behind him, Wren whispered, "Phase 1 complete." Elsewhere on the ship, within a glossy chamber built for observation and high command strategy, Zethak stood before a ring of holographic heads, other admirals, ministers, scientists. One elder alien with branching tendrils where a mouth should be spoke first. "You believe the humans you captured are spies?" "They're not spies," Zethak said. "They are saboteurs. Calm ones." Another advisor barked laughter. They haven't even tried to escape. That's what concerns me, Zethak snapped. They aren't trying to flee. They're waiting. Like they're watching us. The room fell into contemplative silence. What if, the eldest counselor muttered, they're watching to see how long it takes us to realize they are the ones in control. In the cell block, the mechanic finally succeeded in rerouting the oxygen vent to release a different mix. Non-lethal. Just enough to trigger a quiet alarm in the environmental systems. That alarm would force a Tier 3 diagnostic scan, temporarily rerouting most of the ship's surveillance resources away from the detention bay. Wren glanced up at the blinking red panel on the ceiling. Right on time. He tapped the wall in a rhythm. 3 short. Too long. 3 short again. The man building the trebuchet stopped and gave a slight nod. The rhythm was an old Earth signal echoes of Morse code, but disguised in rhythmic taps. Ready. Aboard Earth's UN Defense Council, far from the stars, General Hawk sipped coffee as he reviewed the data streams. The coded signal from Wren had arrived an hour ago embedded in a calm burst disguised as static. He tapped the screen twice. Send the drones. Stage 2 is green, he said. Across the solar system, 3 communications satellites, disguised as deep space beacons, came to life, pulsing encrypted commands to the Zarnath Ultima's onboard systems. The ship's external sensors didn't detect the intrusion. Its internal systems, however, began to glitch. The crew of the Ultima noticed small malfunctions first. Gravity blips, dimmed lights, non-vital doors cycling open and closed like nervous twitches. Wren and his crew remained silent calm. The tea had cooled beside him. Think I'll figure it out? Asked the man with the chessboard made of bolts. Nope, Wren replied. They're still at the we're smarter than you phase. From the far cell, another man called out. My sync just whispered something rude at me. Everyone chuckled. One of the guards turned, frowning. Humans, he muttered. Strange, broken little things. I'll drink to that, Wren replied. By the 4th hour of system glitches, the Ultima's bridge was chaos. Navigation was locked out. Automated systems wouldn't respond to voice command. And for some reason, the ship's internal speakers had begun broadcasting old Earth jazz. The admiral's eye twitched as trumpets blared during a tactical briefing. I want this music off, he roared. It's coming from inside the encrypted relay hub, the technician said, panicked. We can't isolate the source. And the prisoners, still in their cells, unmoved. Admiral Zethak gritted his teeth. Then why do I feel like we are their prisoners? Back in the cells, Wren had begun to whistle along to the jazz tune. He turned to his team. We've had a good run, he said softly. Any objections to moving the timetable up? The mechanic raised a hand. 1 more minute. I'm about to beat Enzo at chess. You've never beaten me, Enzo grumbled. You're about to watch history, buddy. Wren gave them both a nod and turned toward the cell's force shield. Let's end the experiment. He reached into his boot and pulled out a small device. Unremarkable. To most alien scanners, it would look like a broken stim patch. He pressed it. 3 decks below, hidden within the ship's coolant array, a black box came to life once smuggled aboard by Wren's team during the initial capture. It emitted a pulse. 1 short. 2 long. 3 short. The AI's route directives collapsed like a house of cards. On the bridge, Admiral Zethak's console went dark. All lights followed. Systems shut down in staggered waves, command first, then defense, then life support. And then the lights flicked back on. Not in red, not in blue, but earth white. Every console now displayed one phrase, written in English. Who's in control now? Wren stood in the open doorway. The shield had failed, as expected. He walked down the hallway casually, passing stunned guards who had no idea how to react. One reached for his weapon, but paused. Try it, Wren said kindly. It'll be the last thing you do today. The weapon lowered. He turned the corner and entered the lift, pressing the bridge level. The ride was silent except for the jazz tune still playing. He hummed along. The doors opened. Admiral Zethak stared, unblinking. Wren walked onto the bridge, hands behind his back, smiling. Lovely ship, he said. Awful hospitality, but stellar layout. I especially like how centralized your command systems are. So interconnected. You came here to destroy us, the Admiral said quietly. No, Ren replied. We came to understand you. Breaking you was just an unfortunate side effect. He looked around at the panicked officers. Some stood, others slumped. You still don't get it, do you? Get what? We're not just soldiers, Ren said. We're the species that writes warnings in the sand after the tide goes out. He stepped forward until he was face-to-face with the Admiral. You didn't capture humans, Admiral. You invited them in. The stars outside Earth's orbital defense station gleamed with distant serenity. To the untrained eye, the galaxy was still, peaceful, perhaps even indifferent. But to General Hawk, seated in a shadow-drenched war chamber beneath layers of global encryption, the silence was louder than a war cry. He stirred his coffee. The bitter smell grounded him. Unlike the data on the screen, lines of intercepted galactic chatter scrolled past. Terms like containment breach, crew disarray, and ship-wide override danced across alien fonts, crudely translated into English by AI interpreters. He leaned forward, eyes narrowing on one phrase highlighted in amber. Subject Ren assumed control. Command structure compromised. Awaiting protocol from High Command. Good boy, Hawk muttered. Across from him sat Ambassador Marajan, draped in her usual silk gray suit, her expression unreadable, her hands folded like a chess master watching her final piece lock into place. How long before they realize what's really happened? She asked without looking up. Hawk checked the time. They've already realized. But they're still in the bargaining phase. Denial comes later. Then panic. You're a romantic, she replied. I'm human. That earned him a glance and the faintest twitch of a smirk. On the screen, another message blinked to life. This one was different. Not intercepted. Broadcasted. Straight from the heart of the Galactic Empire. A formal message from Grand Strategos Vellner of the Imperial Diplomatic Corps, stamped with the seal of 17 systems. Earth Command, the voice crackled. We acknowledge the incident aboard the cruiser Zarnath Ultima. Your captured citizens will be released following formal review. The Empire regrets the disruption. There was no apology. Not really. Just the weighty arrogance of empires pretending diplomacy was anything but a power play. Hawk waited for the message to end. Then he tapped a button, initiating Earth's return broadcast. His voice, calm and measured, rolled through space like distant thunder. Humanity accepts your declaration of hostility. You may now surrender. He ended the call. John raised a brow. That wasn't subtle. Neither is kidnapping, he said. 3 hours later, aboard a galactic surveillance outpost floating in neutral orbit, Strategos Vellner's staff watched the playback of Hawk's response in horrified silence. He must be bluffing, one aide whispered. Vellner's knuckles tightened against the edge of the obsidian table. Bluffing does not short-circuit an entire flagship. Bluffing does not cause 37 of our crew to go missing while under full security lockdown. The humans have no fleets within reach, another said. They're a single planet, minor trade partner, cultural outlier. Then explain this, Vellner snarled. The holodable shifted to a new display, an orbital schematic showing 3 unidentified objects Nillian. Earth made a drifting far beyond expected range. They hadn't registered as threats. Because they were cloaked. Because the Galactic Empire never thought Earth capable of cloaking technology. Not Earth. Not those loud, stubborn, inferior little apes. And yet here they were, dormant, watching, silent, just like Ren, on board the Zarnath Ultima. Ren stood at the center of the bridge, now fully relit in Earth's standard hues. Cool whites, no fluorescence, minimal glare. Comfort optimized. Even the floor plating had been subtly rearranged to match human ergonomic flow. The alien command crew was locked in the brig, behind the very energy fields they once used to contain him. The irony wasn't lost on him. You kept us in there like zoo exhibits, Ren murmured, staring out at the stars. Now you get to experience it. Welcome to your own command chair now, with reinforced irony. Behind him, Enzo entered, dragging a damaged console panel under one arm. Found where they were running encryption keys. he said. "They're trying to reboot manual controls, but I fried most of the cores." Ren nodded. "Leave them just enough bandwidth to send distress signals. Let them scream." Enzo raised an eyebrow. "You sure? That'll bring backup." "Good," Ren said. "Let them gather." Makes the message louder. Across the bridge, a monitor beeped. Another communication channel opened this time from a civilian galactic merchant ship stumbling into the chaos. Ren answered with perfect cordiality. "This is Captain Marcus Wren of the formerly seized vessel Zarnith Ultima. Please be advised, this ship is under human control, and the original crew is resting in secure containment. No further violence necessary unless provoked." A long silence. Then, did the humans just capture a sovereignty dreadnought? Ren smiled gently. "We prefer the term confiscated. Earth didn't move with fanfare. It moved with precision. A cascade of silent alerts rolled across Earth's orbital networks, triggering fail-safe protocols long designed but never deployed. Embedded agents in distant trade posts quietly activated transponders. Defense satellites, once believed defunct, flared back to life. And beneath the Arctic ice, a command bunker sealed since the early 22nd century lit up for the first time in 100 years. All without a single shot fired. Humanity didn't declare war like the Empire did through parades and thunderous fanfare. They whispered it, and made sure everyone heard. In the Galactic Senate Hall, located in the ancient Starforged citadel of War AK, diplomats from 300 species argued over Earth's response. Most demanded caution. A few, mostly those who'd studied Earth history, suggested immediate surrender. "It's a mining colony incident," spat a Crothesi warlord. "The humans are overreacting." "You kidnapped their operatives," a frail ambassador from Thessalian said quietly. "You don't overreact when a rattlesnake bites your hand. You lose the hand." Another ambassador asked, "Why did they send men like that to a backwater colony?" The Thessalian looked up with tired eyes. "Because that colony wasn't the mission. The capture was." Stunned silence followed. And then the first trace of dread. Admiral Zethak sat slumped in the brig, unable to process the quiet around him. His officers avoided eye contact. No commands came. No messages. No reinforcements. The ship, the one he'd commanded for 20 years, no longer recognized his biometric signature. One by one, the systems had deleted him, like a virus being purged. He looked up as the door opened. Marcus Wren stepped inside, holding a tray with food and off-Corsi cup of tea. "I believe this belongs to you," Wren said, setting the cup down. Zethak stared. "You have made your point," he rasped. "No," Wren said softly. "This isn't the point. This is the opening move." "Then what is your goal?" "To teach you something." "What?" Wren sat across from him. "That humans are never where you expect them, and always thinking 10 steps past the moment you think you've won." He sipped his tea. "You mistake our courtesy for submission, our lack of aggression for weakness. But we're predators, Admiral, cooperative ones, which makes us apex." Zethak's claws twitched. "You don't want peace." Wren smiled faintly. "We do. We just want it on terms that ensure you'll never touch one of ours again." He stood and walked to the door. "Oh, and Admiral?" Zethak looked up. This wasn't revenge. This was analysis. At Earth's lunar command node, Mara-Jan received a new dispatch. A leaked holoclip showing Wren speaking calmly to the camera. "Phase 2 is complete. The cruiser is secure. Empire response anticipated within 20 standard hours. I suggest we move to psychological operations." She didn't blink. "Begin dissemination." Within hours, that clip appeared on back channels, on private feeds, on pirate relays. It spread like wildfire. Not officially, not loudly, just enough that the rumor began. That humans had taken an Imperial ship and didn't ask for ransom. Just waited. And smiled. General Hawk stood before the International War Council, mostly ceremonial at this point. They had the funds, but not the teeth. Not anymore. He set a small object on the table. A data crystal. "Here is a full log of everything Wren and his men did aboard the Ultima. The Russian delegate asked, "Is it real?" No simulations. No projections. Real footage. Real sabotage. Real war games. Are we at war? We already were, Hawk said. They just didn't know they declared it. The table fell quiet. Then Hawk added, "We'll offer them a chance. A very brief one." On the fringes of the Galactic Empire, colonies began preparing for the worst. Not because they feared humans, but because the humans hadn't said anything. And when humans go quiet, things burn. One trade lord's daughter asked, "Father, why do the humans scare them so much?" He answered without irony, "Because humans smile before they strike. And they never bluff." Back aboard the Zarnath Ultima, Marcus Wren stood alone in the command chair. He touched the console once. Broadcast message. Narrowband. Galactic command only. A pause. Then he spoke. "We have your ship. We have your codes. And we have your attention." His voice didn't rise. He didn't yell. He didn't threaten. But it chilled the spine of every being who heard it. "If you want it back, you'll have to be worth our trust." The Zarnath Ultima hung motionless in the void like a carcass that refused to fall. The once mighty dreadnought of the Galactic Empire was now eerily quiet. No system status pings. No bridge chatter. No flickering shields. The ship had become a tomb with a heartbeat beating in sync with the one species that refused to die when cornered. Inside, Marcus Wren adjusted the collar of his jumpsuit, now patched with the crest of Earth's Expeditionary Reconnaissance Corps. He didn't dress in uniform for show. He did it for symbolism, for the recordings, for the history books that would ask, what did humanity wear the day it stopped pretending to be polite? The bridge crew, such as it was, consisted of 6 men. None of them looked particularly dangerous until they moved. One man cleaned his nails with a knife that hadn't been issued. Another played with a coin like he was flipping probability itself. Enzo, the mechanic, now wore the ship's AI command ring like a wedding band, interfacing with systems not meant to be understood by primitives. They looked like a gang of blue-collar Earth nobodies. They were Earth's most dangerous export. Wren stood before the command console. A camera lens extended silently from the ceiling, blinking red. "Broadcast live." "Begin the message," he said. Enzo nodded, tapping a pad. "We're hot." Wren looked directly into the lens. "To the Galactic Command Council, this is Captain Marcus Wren, speaking on behalf of the Earth Defense Accord and the United Human Colonies. I speak with no threats, no ultimatums, just facts." He walked slowly across the bridge, hands behind his back, a schoolteacher on his last warning before a classroom burns. "You kidnapped men. Not soldiers. Not diplomats. Just humans. You thought we'd break. That we'd panic. That we'd negotiate for their return." He stopped. "Instead, you gave us a gift." He smiled. "You gave us an unlocked door." The broadcast was seen on over 4,000 worlds. Some laughed. Some dismissed it. But the smart ones, the veterans, the historians, the old scavenger captains who remembered Earth's wars didn't laugh. They shut off their screens. Then they checked their supply caches. Grand Strategos Velner stood before the emergency assembly in the council dome of Traskvar. He played Wren's broadcast again for the 3rd time. The chamber was silent as a mausoleum. "Have you ever seen a predator smile before it feeds?" Velner asked the room. "They cannot possibly mean to," began one delegate. "They do not bluff," Velner snapped. "This isn't about the captured men. It's about the message. This is psychological warfare played out in real time." An amphibious ambassador raised a slow hand. "We faced species with teeth before." Velner turned to him. "And how many of those species placed listening devices on your High Council's robes before they knew they were at war?" A collective shudder passed through the dome. "We've checked," he added. "Every signal relay in this building has been compromised. Earth has been inside our walls for weeks, and we were too proud to notice." Meanwhile, back on the Ultima, Wren watched the data feed of the Galactic Response Matrix on a side console. 46 military fleets rerouted, Enzo noted. 32 diplomatic missions recalled, another added. And we just got a ping from the Karathi Syndicate. They want to buy Earth's encryption suite. Ren chuckled. Tell them it's not for sale. Yet. He tapped the command console. Initiate Phase 3. Deep in the lower decks, what the Empire once labeled as waste reclamation chambers came alive. These weren't sewage rooms anymore. They'd been converted into launch bays. The captured humans had done more than seize control. They'd rebuilt the ship beneath the Empire sensors. Now, from the belly of the Ultima, swarms of micro-drones burst into space like a silent plague. Each one armed not with weapon but with data, footage, testimonies, confessions, proof of what the Galactic Empire had done across unaligned systems. Raids, kidnappings, covert sterilizations, economic manipulation. Crimes cataloged with meticulous human precision. The drones scattered across the galaxy. Impossible to intercept all. And even if destroyed, they'd already begun broadcasting. Truth is hard to kill, Ren murmured. Back on Earth, in the underground security vault known only as Black Site Aegis, General Hawk stood over a war table with blinking red sectors. His face remained unreadable. How many factions have seen the drone data? He asked. 37 confirmed, said the intelligence officer. 9 have already cut ties with the Empire. 2 have begun mobilizing fleets. 1 called us to ask if we needed help. Apparently, we made quite the impression on their delegation last year. And what did you tell them? We told them we appreciate the sentiment, and that we're not done yet. Hawk allowed himself a single nod. Good. He turned to John, standing beside him. You ready to deliver the terms? She nodded. They'll expect diplomacy. They always do. And what do we offer? Hawk paused, then said, a choice. In the galactic shadow zone of Sector YLL Varan, a fleet of Empire heavy cruisers approached the Zarnath Ultima. 30 ships, thousands of crew, all trained in orbital siege tactics. Admiral Corvin, who now led the counterstrike, believed he had the advantage. After all, humans were unpredictable but small, limited. 1 ship, no matter how captured, could not hold against 30. He didn't even bother masking his signal. This is Admiral Corvin of the Galactic Suppression Armada. You are hereby ordered to relinquish control of the Dreadnought, power down all systems, and prepare for execution. On the Ultima Bridge, Ren scratched his chin. They always go with execution first, Enzo sighed. So dramatic. Ren opened the channel. Admiral Corvin, is it? Lovely name. Sounds like an overcooked dish. You will comply immediately, Corvin barked. I'm afraid we're already booked for today, Ren replied calmly. Tea at noon. Psychological warfare by dinner. Try again tomorrow. You have no fleet, no allies, no. I have your ship, Ren interrupted. And your attention. He tapped a key. On Corvin's fleet sensors, 30 identical readings lit up behind the Ultima. At first glance, they looked like Earth warships. Second glance, they were holographic decoys. But Corvin didn't know that. He hesitated. You're bluffing. Probably, Ren said cheerfully. But you should ask yourself something, Admiral. How many humans have you met who needed a fleet to win? A moment of static. Then the line went dead. 15 minutes later, 4 of Corvin's ships powered down and veered away. Fear spreads faster than orders. In the brig, Admiral Zefak watched the tremors ripple across the floor as the Ultima prepared for sudden maneuvering. He knew what was coming. He'd seen this before on Earth history recordings. You're not fighting to win, he muttered. You're fighting to humiliate us. Ren appeared at the door again, holding a datapad. You figured that out faster than most. Why? Because you kidnapped our men. You've killed before for less. Ren stepped into the cell. We've forgiven worse, he said. But this isn't about revenge. It's about making sure you never forget us again. He turned the datapad towards Zefak. It showed hundreds of alien protest, recordings across dozens of Empire-aligned worlds. Unrest, revolt, public rage. Your people are learning what it feels like to be human. Later that day, Marajan walked alone into the Galactic Council chamber. No security escort. No warships orbiting above. Just her and a black case. The chamber buzzed with tension. Delegates whispered. Eyes darted. Most had never seen a human diplomat in person. She set the case on the table and opened it. Inside, a stone tablet. Ancient. Scarred. From Earth's earliest wars. Do you know what this says? She asked, turning it. Silence. She translated anyway. It's from 2041 BC. It reads, "We did not start this war, but we will end it with your name carved into the ash." She paused. "We come here not to beg, not to plead, but to offer you a final lesson." She lifted her gaze. "Do not mistake our kindness for mercy." Then she closed the case and walked out. Across the Empire, ships rerouted. Borders shuttered. World leaders called emergency sessions. Intelligence units scrambled to find out how Earth knew so much, had infiltrated so deeply, had planned so far ahead. But it was already too late. Humanity wasn't retaliating. They were teaching. Aboard the Zarnath Ultima, Enzo leaned back in his chair. "So what's next, boss?" Ren smiled faintly. "We leave them the ship." Enzo blinked. "What?" "Intact. Just empty. Let them crawl aboard, paranoid, wondering what we left behind." "No bomb." Ren chuckled. "We are the bomb." And when the Empire retrieved their flagship, they found no crew, no tech, no weapons left behind. Only a single datapad, blinking softly on the captain's chair. On it, for words in calm, Earth Standard font. "Now do you understand?" The chamber lights in the Galactic Council flickered not from malfunction, but from nerves. Over 500 delegates had assembled beneath the crystalline dome on Vormaris Prime, the central capital of the Galactic Empire. They had not come in unity. They had come in fear. It was the first time the Council had convened without a standing Empire military escort present. That was no oversight. It was a message. And now, Earth's representative had arrived. Mara John entered the room with no flourish, no entourage, and no weapons. She wore a black suit. No emblems. No flag. Just silence. Her boots echoed across the obsidian floor louder than any war drum. And as she crossed the threshold, the council members noticed something far more alarming than any warship. She was smiling. A polite, human smile, cool and calm as a blade still sheathed. She placed a small black box onto the center dais and opened it slowly. "Counselors," she began, "we were invited here for diplomacy." A few nodded cautiously. Others didn't breathe. She pressed a single button. A projection flared to life above her log files, intercepted transmissions, galactic black site maps, and audio of classified war crimes perpetrated by the Empire. "This is everything we've gathered while you were asleep." The dome went silent. "Earth has no empire," she continued. "No colonies stretching across the stars. No council seats or ancestral claims." She stepped forward. "And yet here we are." A reptilian minister dared to speak. "What do you want, human?" John looked at him without blinking. "We want your shame. Public. Documented. Delivered. And if we refuse..." She smiled wider. "You won't." Across the room, council aides received instant data floods on their devices. Earth's microdrones had reached every media relay, every power grid, every civil comnet across the galaxy. Every secret the Empire had buried was now exposed through coordinated leaks, triggered the moment she entered the room. She wasn't here to negotiate peace. She was here to deliver verdict. "You broke the rules of war," John said, voice cold now. "You kidnapped unarmed citizens. You violated protocols of neutrality. You dissected prisoners." She walked slowly past rows of alien ministers. "And you laughed." The Crothesi ambassador rose to his feet, trembling with fury. "This is blackmail." "This," she replied coolly, "is a mirror." He bared his fangs. "You humans pretend to be civilized, but you bring nothing but ruin." John's tone never changed. "No, we bring consequences." He took a step forward. She didn't move. "I will not be lectured by a planet that has only just reached the stars." John leaned forward, almost whispering. "Then you should have left us alone in the dark." The Crothesi sat back down. Hard. The elder Thessalian ambassador, skeletal and blind, lifted a single hand. And if the Empire confesses, John turned to him respectfully, then you will survive, bruised but breathing. Your influence will fall. Your colonies will rebel. Your enemies will close in. But you will live to see the next sunrise. And if we resist, then we'll erase your stars one by one, quietly, surgically, without a single anthem. She closed the box. Behind her, a display shimmered, a schematic of the Empire. Then slowly, one by one, red lines slashed through key nodes, military strongholds, supply lines, outposts, academies. All mapped, all vulnerable. John spoke again. You kidnapped our men. The words were calm, but they rang with iron. You could have returned them with an apology. You could have sent a fruit basket. Instead, you threatened to dissect them. Delegates shifted uncomfortably. You asked for war, she said, so we came to teach you what that means. She stepped away, letting the visuals linger like smoke. You've seen what one team can do. Ren, Enzo, the others. 6 men, 1 ship, galactic panic. John now stood beneath the dome's center light. Imagine 10 teams, 100, 1,000. We don't broadcast our power because we don't need to. We weaponize your assumptions. The insectoid minister clicked nervously. What are your demands? John exhaled softly. You will release every human in your systems. You will pay restitution. You will relinquish your claims to unaligned sectors. And you will sign a public treaty declaring Earth a sovereign power immune from imperial enforcement. Another delegate bristled. That's not negotiation. That's submission. John tilted her head slightly. No, this is mercy. Another voice broke in, tired, deep, and resigned. It was Admiral Zethak. From the shadows of the gallery, flanked by 2 Earth security agents, he stepped into view. He looked smaller now, stripped of his armor, stripped of certainty. I served the Empire for 93 years, he said to the chamber. No one interrupted. And in all that time, I never feared a single enemy. Not until I met the humans. His eyes met John's. He nodded slowly. Do what they ask, he said. Because if you don't. He looked to the ceiling, remembering the way Ren smiled when chaos unfolded. The way Enzo hummed to jazz while dismantling an entire ship's control system. They won't burn your cities. They'll erase the reason they were built. And then he sat down in the back row. Quiet. Defeated. The chamber was still. Until the High Chancellor, ancient and trembling, stood and faced John. Earth is hereby recognized as a sovereign power outside the reach of imperial law. The demands are accepted. John nodded. It was done. Back on the Zarnath Ultima, now docked discreetly in an asteroid field beyond known patrols, Marcus Wren stood alone in the bridge, watching the final vote come through. Broadcast in real time. One by one, the delegates confirmed their assent. The vote passed. Humanity had not negotiated. It had dictated. Enzo strolled onto the bridge, eating something that vaguely resembled an alien pastry. Do we feel triumphant yet? Ren gave a small shrug. I'll feel triumphant when they start teaching our kids galactic politics with words like covert leverage and tactical patience. Enzo laughed. And controlled humiliation. Don't forget that one. Outside the viewports, the stars shifted. The ship was slowly turning back toward Earth's secure space. I think we made our point, Ren said. Enzo sat at the console. You think they'll try again? They might, Ren admitted. But next time, they won't start with shackles. They'll start with a seat at the table. Then we bring fire? Ren smiled that quiet, terrifying human smile. No. Then we bring chairs. On Earth, Hawk stood at the UN command tower, watching the slow return of the Ultima. Around him, world leaders no longer questioned him. Now they asked for advice. You going to debrief them? Asked one analyst. No, Hawk said. They already know everything they need. Another leaned in. What if they retaliate? They won't, he said. They've seen what we're capable of when we're polite. He turned back to the screen, sipping coffee. And they should be grateful we were. A week later, In a backroom of a Terran embassy built freshly in orbit over Traskvar, Ren met with Marajan. She handed him a small folder. Inside, dossiers, missions, teams. Ren glanced up. Already. John sipped her tea. There's always another empire. He looked over the names. Recruits. Operations. Designations. Phase 4. You think the galaxy's ready? He asked. No, she replied. But we are. Ren closed the folder and tapped it twice. Then looked out the window at the swirling galactic core beyond. A hell of a thing, he muttered. What a single mistake can teach. John nodded. Especially, she said softly, when hell wears a human smile.